What's up, everybody? It's me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, back with another video here at Fantasy Pros, and it's time to go round by round. That's right, baby. I'm going to spin you right round as we're going to go through 14 rounds of what I think are the right targets for every single round this draft season. And speaking of draft season, and speaking of fantasy football leagues, there's always winners and losers every single year, and I've got something for you. Check this out from Trophy Smack. It is the I Suck at Fantasy Football flag from Trophy Smack. It's unbelievable. We've teamed up with Trophy Smack for this perfect banner for the most spirited of all fantasy football losers. That's right. Give this to the loser in your league. Subscribe to Fantasy Pros YouTube channel, your ultimate source for fantasy football analysis and updates. Leave a comment on any of our videos, and that's it. And the best part, we'll be announcing the lucky winner right here on the channel. So don't forget to turn on those notifications, ring that bell till it goes ding, so you know when new episodes are up, and you are the big winner of the I Suck at Fantasy Football flag from Trophy Smack. There you have it, everybody. That looks pretty good, but not as good as these picks in these rounds. So check out mine. That's right, Joey P's round by round for 2024 best picks. Let's forego the very top of the draft and instead look at Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is going pretty much in the middle of every first round, and I want him on my team, and here's why. He has been one of the most consistent fantasy wide receivers over the last few seasons. He has played more games than Jamar Chase and has a better quarterback situation in terms of stability than Justin Jefferson this year, and yet still, we're looking at him go anywhere as early as 5th overall and as late as even 9th or 10th overall in some drafts. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, to me, is the perfect guy to just set and forget, to build a fantasy team around, and this guy was absolutely spectacular last year. He was wide receiver 3, folks, with 164 targets, 119 receptions, 1,500 yards, and 10 touchdowns. That, my friend, is a cornerstone wide receiver you can build your fantasy team around. When it comes to round 2, I'm looking to keep pounding the wide receiver table, and I'm going to do that with Marvin Harrison Jr., rookie for the Arizona Cardinals. Now, Marvin Harrison, to me, is basically going to be an absolute rock star from day one. This kid did everything you could possibly ask for at Ohio State, and now he finds himself as the head honcho in this receiving core in Arizona, where Kyler Murray basically has very limited options outside of Trey McBride and Harrison. So I'm expecting a guy to go well beyond the 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns that he is basically projected for right now. I think you could see something closer to 1,350 and 10 touchdowns. That's how polished and ready for the NFL Marvin Harrison Jr. is. So I've got no problem locking in this rookie, who I think this time next year is going to be a first-round pick, not a second. In round 3, we need a hero, and that hero is, of course, Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry has been one of the most accomplished running backs of this generation, and just last year was second in the league in rushing on an awful Tennessee Titans team. Now he finds himself in a situation in Baltimore, a team that ran the ball more than anybody else and better than anybody else last year, the most rushing yards of any squad, and Derrick Henry is going to be the focal point of that offense, make no mistake. So my hero, RB, is Derrick Henry, and to get him in the 3rd round, right at that turn, oh baby, that is a fantastic spot to be in, and I'm going to take him every single time, whether it's PPR, half, or standard. Derrick Henry is my hero. Now, I do like some value when it comes to the running back board, and Rachaad White is that guy for me of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In the 4th round, Rachaad White is floating around there still, and to me, he is grossly undervalued and underappreciated. We saw basically the breakout season from him in 2023, and they didn't bring anyone to challenge him for that role in 2024. So as far as I'm concerned, it is wheels up for Rachaad White, a player who's capable of having 1,500 all-purpose yards and double-digit touchdowns in 2024. Last year, all this guy did was finish as RB8, and now he's being drafted way later than that, and I think that is basically absurd. At RB12 right now on most people's boards, that's a value, and in the 4th round, I'm going to take Rachaad White. I've got my 2-star wide receivers, my backfield of Henry and White. I'm feeling good about this draft. In the 5th round, the alarm bells are going off. The quarterback run has already begun in the late 3rd probably, and now I'm looking at Anthony Richardson of the Indianapolis Colts. This guy can absolutely break the wheel when it comes to fantasy quarterbacks. He has the arm strength, the size, the speed, and basically the ability to change fantasy as we know it. Now, it's asking a lot. Sure, he was injured last year and missed a lot of developmental time, but in the tease that was 2023, Anthony Richardson was special. Sure, there might be a peak or valley or two, but I think Anthony Richardson could absolutely return this investment in the 5th round. If you want to go late QB, I'm fine with that. But if Richardson is sitting there in the 5th round, which is where I like him, to me, that is risk enough to jump in with both feet to the Anthony Richardson pool and possibly have a guy that's going to win you anywhere from 5 to 6 weeks on his own with some enormous point totals. That Shane Steichen offense is going to be geared specifically for him to be successful. And the last time Shane Steichen had an offense that was geared for a mobile quarterback, Jalen Hurts had a pretty darn good season. In the 6th round, I'm looking for a player who's being drafted as a wide receiver 3 who is really a number 2 or possibly a 1A, and that guy is Terry McLaurin of the Washington Commanders. Terry McLaurin has never played with a quarterback as talented as Jayden Daniels, and it might be some time for Jayden Daniels to get comfortable in the NFL. But regardless, Terry McLaurin has been the model of consistency throughout his career, and now you're giving him an opportunity to be more explosive with, guess what, a more talented quarterback. So when you look at what this guy has done, 4 straight seasons of 1,000 yards, yeah, the touchdowns are underwhelming, but you could say that about the Commanders' offense in general over that period of time. I think it's a new day under Dan Quinn and this ownership group, and I think that Terry McLaurin is criminally undervalued, and if you're going to give him to me in this round, I'm going to take him every single time. With a lot of buzz floating around about a lot of young tight ends, George Kittle has become a bit of a value this year. So don't tell Welsh that I'm drafting George Kittle, but I am, and here's why. He's going a little bit later than he should, and he did finish as the tight end 2 last year. Now, he had 65 catches and over 1,000 yards again. It's the first time he's had 1,000 yards in quite some time, but there's still really good value here, even if he falls short of that 1,000-yard season in 2024, because he does play on a very good 49er offense, and an offense that could honestly yield some more targets to George Kittle this year, depending on how that Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, the whole contract situation will work itself out as of recording this. Regardless, Kittle is a very steady investment and is still in a very good offense set up for fantasy points. So I don't expect him to get back to those 11 touchdowns in 2022. Can he give you a 6 to 8 in 2024? I think he can. I want to build out my running back room here in round 8. And Zamir White is still on the board, so I'm going to take the Las Vegas Raiders running back because last year he proved that he could be a 3-down back, and Antonio Pierce proved that he wants to run the football. So as far as I'm concerned, Zamir White is that guy, and the reason is the front office didn't bring in any competition, the draft really didn't yield anybody interesting, so Zamir White is going to be a 3-down back in Las Vegas, and I think I'm even comfortable with him as my RB2. To get him as an RB3 is a huge win in fantasy leagues, so if you have big wide receiver builds, Zamir White's going to be sitting there later, and considering that Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew are the guys under center for the Raiders this year, you're going to see a lot of Zamir White running the football. So give me those volume carries all day long in round 8. Round 9 is time to start taking some shots at some big upside, and let's go with Ladd McConkey of the Los Angeles Chargers. I think Ladd McConkey is going to be a rock star in the slot this year for the Chargers. He's going to see a ton of targets. There's a lot of targets available with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen gone, and Quentin Johnston, of course, not being the answer. Josh Palmer is just a guy, which means Ladd McConkey could be the guy when it comes to PPR leagues, and I love the value I'm getting on him in round 9 currently. So Ladd McConkey is another interesting upside value play, and one that a lot of people don't really know too much about. Whenever he had a full workload when Brock Bowers wasn't around, this guy was a rock star in Georgia. As far as I'm concerned, Ladd McConkey can hit the ground running for the Chargers in 2024 and be Justin Herbert's safety blanket to bring him back to fantasy relevance. Speaking of taking shots on rookie wide receivers, let's try Xavier Worthy of the Kansas City Chiefs. This guy is the fastest man in the NFL right now, according to the Combine, but that's not the only reason I'm drafting him. This offense has lacked some explosiveness ever since Tyreek Hill left, and I think Xavier Worthy brings that. And when I'm looking into double-digit rounds, I'm looking for upside, guys that are going to get better as the year goes on, and guys, frankly, they could throw into a flex spot and look for upside and big play capability. And Xavier Worthy has that in spades, especially when you consider he's playing with the best quarterback in the NFL in Patrick Mahomes. So Xavier Worthy and McConkey, 2 rookies that I think people should be looking at in rounds 9 and 10. The upside's there. If one hits, I'm golden. If both of them hit, I'm going to be fighting for a championship. It's round 11, so let's get some more depth at the running back spot, and Trey Benson of Arizona, to me, has a lot of appeal. One of my favorite backs coming out of this draft. Trey Benson got some high praise from one of the best to ever do it, LaDainian Tomlinson, and that, my friends, had me going back to watch even more tape, and everything that I watched made me like Trey Benson even more than I already did. All that's standing in his way is James Conner, who's been very productive in Arizona to his own right, but he's another year older and he does have an injury history like a lot of running backs. So Trey Benson is a late round investment that could yield big dividends in the second half of the season, which is exactly when you want to make your playoff push. So just remember, when you're drafting rookies like some of these guys that I've got here late in drafts, you have to practice patience. They might not give you too much in the first month or even 6 weeks in the season, but they could possibly win you leagues as you go down the stretch run. So Trey Benson's one of those guys that if injury or performance issues should befall James Conner, Trey Benson goes and finds himself in a really interesting upside fantasy position at running back. It's time to get some more depth on this roster, and let's take veteran Jakobi Meyers in the 12th round of the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, you mentioned earlier, I'm not too excited about the quarterback play. However, I am excited about Jakobi Meyers. This is a guy that has finished as a wide receiver 3 in 2022 and a wide receiver 2 last year, wide receiver 21 overall, with basically subpar quarterback play in those 2 seasons. So I'm confident that he can reach somewhere between 850, maybe even 900 yards if he stays healthy for an entire season. Last year at 8 touchdowns, he saw that start to spike as well. It seems like the longer Jakobi Meyers is in the league, the more he starts to get it and look more productive at the NFL level. Yet ironically, his ADP continues to drop every year, and I don't know why. So instead of asking these questions, I'm just going to draft him here and be happy with this veteran who's going to fill in if there's an injury for me, be a flex wide receiver option, or maybe even a guy that I want to play as my wide receiver 3 if things really go well for the Raiders this year. But regardless, you can't knock the investment in the 12th round of a guy like Meyers, who you know what you're getting, you know there's a solid floor, and that, my friends, is worth investing in this late in a draft. Now that we have some veteran leadership in that wide receiver room, how about some young upside with 23-year-old Dontayvion Wicks of the Green Bay Packers? Now, Wicks last year ranked among the top rookies in yards per route run, and he's got a quarterback in Jordan Love who really broke out in 2023. If Christian Watson should not be able to get his hamstring issues under control and misses more time, Dontayvion Wicks all of a sudden becomes a very intriguing wide receiver option for the Green Bay Packers and for your fantasy team. So whether it's covering some buys or maybe just investing in a guy who's got a ton of upside, as you get later into the draft, it's always better to look at the guys who could possibly break out instead of the guys where you know you're going to end up cutting them in probably 2 weeks, chasing something else off the waiver wire. Wicks has a lot of potential, and he's already flashed some of that brilliance in 2023. So let's see if Dontayvion Wicks can sit on that bench for a little while and become a guy that Jordan Love starts to turn to in big spots. In round 14, I'm looking at DeMario Douglas, or Pop Douglas, as he's more affectionately known, of the New England Patriots. This wide receiver is going to be the main slot guy for Drake May sooner than later, and things are starting to look up a little bit for this Patriots offense. Now, not too much because I'm not expecting a lot of touchdowns for Douglas, but I am expecting a lot of targets, and volume is king in fantasy, especially when you're trying to cover bye weeks. I look at DeMario Douglas as a guy who could do just that, maybe a younger version of what Jakobi Meyers did in that offense just a few years ago, and we always know that role in the Patriots offense, whether it's Belichick or now Gerard Mayo as head coach, it's going to be a similar sort of look. So, as far as I'm concerned, if you're looking for a last round pick in the 14th, Pop Douglas could be the #1 target, and there's not a lot of guys in that round that you could say that about on their respective teams. So once again, I'm chasing volume and a little bit of upside with these later picks, and Pop Douglas is just what I need for my roster. There you have it, everybody. Those are my best picks, but I want to hear from you. Go round by round yourself, or tell me which one of my picks you like the most, and you just might win yourself that I suck at fantasy football flag. That's an amazing banner to give somebody that you really love or really don't like. Either way, it looks like fun. That'll do it for me, Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.